The Out of Focus guys.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Yeah, okay. Everybody can act like they weren't just doing the same thing. What's up, Roger?
That was such a cool show, huh?
That was a cool show. And
Very cool moment. Very cool moment.
yes, so
I actually got goosebumps just listening to that just now.
because you were there. Welcome. We are the Out of Focus guys. This is
I don't
Nick.
know. You said we were there, but I don't know if you could hear it. You could hear my voice.
Oh no, I figured that.
Yeah,
out.
one of the fans screaming.
Yeah.
One of those were mine.
It was actually your beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Nick and Roger. We're the Out of Focus guys.
What's up?
We're here to talk about why music is so freaking important. So that in mind, want to get a couple things out of the way here real quick. So again, this for us is all about talking about why music is so important through a bunch of different topics and things like that. If this is the first time you've listened, we've got several other episodes. This is actually kind of a part 2, talking about why going to shows is a very important part of music and getting that whole experience and that kind of thing. But we've got some other stuff on how it's tied to the benefits of memory, and we've got some holiday specific stuff. Interestingly enough, we recently got a few listens in Brazil, which is pretty sweet.
I don't know how it's happening, but
I know. We're actually I got
over the world.
Yeah, we got to thank our listeners in Brazil and Turkey. We got a new one in Atlanta, Georgia. So shout out to Georgia. But India and the UK and Australia, we have some very devout listeners in Germany. So thank you for that. We appreciate you guys. We're paying attention to that every time. Weirdly enough, and I brought this up to you earlier, we had some listeners in France. But for whatever reason, those statistics are gone now, which is weird. So I don't know if I made a comment somewhere.
And you pulled back your listen.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Said canceled.
Yeah, probably.
Cancel my listen.
Yep. But that aside, we really appreciate all the listens, all the attention people are giving us. It's very, very kind, very cool. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you think we got wrong, anything like that.
Suggestions.
Yep. You can hit us up at the outofocusguys.net. You can find email and access to all the socials. We'll post links in the episode notes. I'll try to remember to do a better job on some of that stuff. Usually we do pretty good. But this is a part 2 discussing the benefits of going to shows, which is something that is really important to you and I equally.
And this is a part 2 of possibly part 3 because we
make no limitations.
Well, and also we have more shows that we're going to.
Yes, we do. So we'll get to that in a minute because I want to talk about some of what we've experienced so far this summer, because summer is very much the kind of show-going season. And so it's going to be really important that we kind of try and capitalize on that. Okay, so summer always very much the season in which it's kind of the high point of touring for lots of bands. Most bands, especially depending on geographic areas and things like that. So lots of people are out on tour. I'm not even going to bother going through any kind of list or anything like that. I think we've made that mistake before. Yeah. So, but all that aside, some of the stuff that we've been to. So Metallica at Virginia Tech with Pantera and Suicidal Tendencies.
Yep. On my birthday.
On your birthday.
On my birthday.
Which is pretty sweet. So that in mind, your thoughts?
Oh, it was awesome. It was really, really cool seeing them play, Enter Sandman.
Right, and I'm gonna end up coming back to that particular show and kind of its importance. It serves as a really good example for a few things I want to touch on. But part of what is special about that particular show, in addition to the fact that we got to go on your birthday, which is just like the planets aligning and all this cool shit, and we haven't been to a show together in a long time.
Yeah, that's only our second show together, right?
Aside from like some local stuff,
going
to breweries and community shit, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, as far as big show, now I would argue, aside from festivals and that kind of thing, this is by far the biggest show, both production-wise and just size of audience and things like that is fucking huge.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 60 and 70,000 people. I think it just depends on kind of what you read, not to mention all the people that were around Lane Stadium. The other thing is, this being huge because it's Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
and
that's their song.
Yeah,
right?
For 25 years. So a quarter of a century, they've been using Enter Sandman to get everybody stoked. So pretty cool. What else have we checked out this year? So I went to Boardwalk Rock in Ocean City, Maryland with a buddy of mine. Got to see some stuff, not nearly as much as I would like, but I got to see Extreme while we were standing in line for some beer. Chevelle, which was really good. We were probably the closest for them.
Yeah, they put on a good show.
Yeah, and spot on. Very, very solid. Saw Bush. Saw a few songs from them. That was all right. I got to send you some pictures and I think maybe a little bit of video to make you jealous.
Yeah.
I got to see Rob Zombie for the first time, which was a really good show. And Rob Zombie got put on that bill kind of last minute. It was like a week and a half, 2 weeks before the show actually started, because initially it was supposed to be Motley Crue in that spot. And then...
didn't it go to Alice Cooper?
Alice in Chains.
Oh, Alice in Chains. Oh, okay.
Alice Cooper was actually already on that bill.
Okay.
On day 2.
Gotcha.
I only went to day 1.
Gotcha.
Day two had a bunch of different artists that I would have liked to have seen, but it just wouldn't have worked. I got to see Def Leppard, which was awesome. So a few different bands. I will tell you, though, I have a gripe with festivals.
Yeah, what's that?
Okay. Well, and I know this
waiting to get out, sit in the car for 2 hours.
All of that shit for sure. But I will say that, like getting out there was all right. It was okay. It took a shuttle from the parking lot, crossed over into the island, that kind of thing. That was fine, except for the way back was a complete train wreck. But here's my problem, and I know a lot of people have the same issue, and that's paying a bunch of money and not having the opportunity to see all the bands that you're paying for.
Oh yeah. Because they did the multiple stage thing, right? And everybody they kind of stagger them, but then there's people playing at the same time.
Well, you know what? It's not even so much that they're playing at the same time. With the way Ocean City was set up, they had 3 stages. Okay. You kind of think of it as like left, middle, and right.
Yep. Now
there's a huge amount of people in between all of these stages. It's like, okay, the show ends over at stage, the stage all the way to the left. Well, then you got to go through all the people to get over to the stage. Now, if you want to get close,
you got to get there early.
You're going to have to miss somebody.
Yep.
Right? So, there was a point where like we were watching Bush. We're like, okay, well, I guess we can say we've seen Bush now. Let's go and see if we can find a decent spot for Rob Zombie. You know, it was interesting too.
Good choice.
Yeah, well, you know, like I really enjoyed Bush back in the day. You know, they're kind of considered they're like the British Nirvana or some shit like that.
Sure,
You know,
okay,
whatever.
yeah. Very 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they have some really cool songs that I like. Glycerine.
Oh yeah, Glycerine.
Chemicals
Yeah.
Between Us, and you know, shit like that.
Yeah, they had a good album.
Yeah, they had a couple.
Yeah, they had a good album.
You know, I won't get into egos and stuff like that, but but I was like, okay, well, I've already realized by this point I'm gonna miss shit, so now I have to start making choices.
You got to make a choice,
and I've already paid a bunch of money for this ticket.
Yep.
You know, so that is kind of my struggle. I got to see Def Leppard, which was cool. I didn't get to see Everclear, which I would have really liked.
Oh, I didn't know they were on there.
Yeah, and again, that's just day one, and we got there late, so I missed some other stuff early, which I wasn't broken up about. But that's my gripe is, you know, if I'm paying all this money, I should be able to see a larger quantity of bands.
Sure.
Like I saw a small margin compared to what's offered on just day one.
Oh yeah.
So, and I know that's a big gripe for a lot of people. I know that we'd mentioned in a previous episode a huge festival that was supposed to happen in Vegas, and we went through a huge number of bands that were on that.
I forgot what it was called. But yeah.
Shame on me for not having the name.
Metallica played it twice, right?
No.
That show?
No. This festival was supposed to happen, and the tickets were going to be like $400, and a lot of people they just didn't sell enough tickets because people know that's the issue, right?
Which is crazy.
You have huge names on this bill.
I don't understand how
know?
people pay that much for.
We'll get to that in a. I got a whole.
I'm upset about that.
Yeah, I got a whole thing about that here in just a few. So that was pretty cool. Again, wheel back to Metallica real quick. Pantera was really cool. I'd never seen them before.
Yes, they were really cool. That was really good.
I know your wife was really excited to see Zakk Wylde.
Yes,
even at a distance.
Yeah.
I
didn't see her the whole show while he was playing. No, I'm just messing.
I will say, so far, being on the East Coast right now, I would say mid-Atlantic East Coast. Right, I haven't seen shows down in Florida or further south.
Okay.
I haven't gone further north.
Yeah.
Right, but so far, people that I've encountered at shows have been really cool.
Yeah.
I haven't really encountered any rude people. I haven't seen a lot of fights.
Nope.
And stuff
I was
like
expecting it to be be pretad at Lane Stadium because it's
we only saw one guy get arrested.
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Now, getting out of that show was a bitch.
We sat for about an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, and we didn't have bad parking. We
were right by the exit.
Yeah, and it still sucked. And I will never knock our law enforcement or anything like that, except for the guy who was sitting just
talking to the truck in front of us for an hour.
Yeah. Well, nothing else was going on.
Yeah.
So, but whatever. Then you and I went to Rooster Walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was pretty fun. I got tickets from my work. Thanks,
right.
New Belgium Brewery, Harrison. Yeah, that was pretty fun. It was, a 5-day?
I think that one was
4 days?
4 days.
But we only went one day. Yeah, or not the last day. We went on Saturday.
Yeah.
Saw
Sneezy.
Sneezy, which they were a fun band.
Yeah, they're an interesting one.
Had some fun songs.
Yeah, they just had a lot of really good energy.
Yes.
It's all about having a good time.
Yeah,
we'll throw a link in for them, so if you want to check Sneezy out, they've been playing all over the place this summer. I think they're even coming back this direction.
They were very high energy. They were all over the place,
Yeah.
Put on a good show.
Yeah.
And fun. Very audience.
Yeah.
Participation. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
We saw Doe Eyes. She had a very nice voice.
Yep, we talked to her for a moment.
Yeah, met her a little bit. She was very nice.
Yeah. Trampled by Turtles put on a really good show.
That was, and I know them, but I don't know them. I know a couple songs.
Okay, you're familiar with them.
I'm familiar with them,
but I
know you had never even heard of them, right?
No, but I love that name.
But so we got there early, like you said. You get and this was that whole same thing that you're talking about. There's so many stages, you don't get to see everybody. There was 5 stages here.
Yeah, and they set that up really well. I will say that.
It was really cool. I loved it. Was like in the woods, right? Mm-hmm. It was in the woods, and there was just
where all the hippies of Virginia were hiding. All of them were in this one place.
And it was just really cool though. And I really loved that the New Belgium stage where we saw Sneezy and Doe Eyes. they had those hammocks. Like there was trees there, and they just put hammocks everywhere, and
Yeah.
you just go sit in a hammock and watch the show.
Yeah.
That was really, really cool. And then the main stage, they had the big grass hill, right? So
Right.
we left. I don't remember who we were watching, but we left somebody early so we could go get close for
Yeah.
Tremblay Church. I think we were three rows back.
Yeah, something like
Something
that.
like that. We were right by the front.
They sounded really good.
But they were, they put on a really good show. They sounded really good. Very good energy. It was a fun show.
Yeah, I got some clips. I'd have to look at the name, but we saw a really good reggae band there, which was pretty cool. They really had a good vibe going. Roger's looking at the poster right now, trying to
the
remember,
poster
but
right
that's
here.
not going to help. But yeah, really cool vibe. And the conclusion that I made when we went to that festival was, I think the best way to handle festivals is to go in with no expectations.
Yes.
Just like, you know, and maybe go to a festival just to see what you find.
Well, and this one was, I've been to festivals, right? I've been to Ozfest. I've been to Rockstar Mayhem Festival.
Sure.
I've been to Taste of Chaos or Pain in the Grass.
Yeah,
I've been
I went to
the
Taste Chaos.
Taste of Chaos.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've been to quite a bit of festivals, and this was by far the out of the norm festival. Like, this was very different, and I really
chilled.
I really
and it wasn't
enjoyed it.
huge. Like, there were 5 stages,
You
but they
feel
weren't
like it was huge, but it wasn't.
It didn't feel huge to me.
No.
It was like,
no. I mean, you would think that it was huge by saying there's 5 stages.
Oh, yeah.
There's 100 bands playing or whatever it was.
maybe
But
across 4 days.
yeah, it was not a huge thing. It didn't take forever to walk.
There was
You
the
know,
main stage down the grass hill. There was the
There was
New
a
Belgium stage.
New Belgium stage, which was in the trees.
Right.
There was another stage right on the water, so you
Yeah,
could
the
get a
one on
little
the lake.
paddle boat, which we never, got our paddle boat and held
'cause we-
hands and listened to the music during
Right.
sunset. We never got to do that. Damn it.
Not enough to inhale while the reggae was playing on that one, buddy.
Then they had the kids stage, or in the kids area, there was like a kids zone.
Yeah.
They had a
Which is
stage
pretty
there,
cool.
and then they had another stage that we didn't even make it to.
Yeah, that's right.
I forgot what they called it, but
I
we had
don't
to
remember.
take a little shuttle over to it. I think.
Oh yeah, that
is
sounded
what
like
they
way
were
too much
saying.
work.
But I mean, it was, and it was,
Especially-
and it was a little weird too. Right when we walk in, what's the first booth we see going through the woods?
Was
Right
it
on the
massage?
left. Yes, there was people with tents, and they're like holding onto the tent, walking on people's backs.
Oh, yeah.
That was just a trip. Like,
The-
I've never seen that at a festival before.
And it's not a judgment.
No,
by any means,
not at all.
But I love that when we went to that festival, it's like, okay, anytime we go to a festival, especially within some of these genres, like, let's see how many Grateful Dead things we can spot.
You said that before we got there. Yeah,
Yeah, so like maybe that should be the next game. Is like go to a festival, see how many times you can see things related to the Grateful Dead, and that band is obviously not there, but nonetheless,
but they're there in spirit.
yeah, apparently. One thing that I'll say, so I was going to kind of bring this point up. Vans Warped Tour. I went to Warped Tour years and years and years ago.
Okay.
And I looked them up recently, and I'm sure they've probably been doing it this way for a long time. I think it's weird, right? They used to go like city after city
already
after
know what
city
you're
after
gonna say.
city, right?
Yep.
And now it's like, well, they do 3 shows.
Yep.
Now I'm stoked to see that, looking at the bands that are on the various bills, which change up from place to place a little
Okay.
bit. I'm glad to see that a lot of those bands are still playing. In fact, I was stoked. Like, oh, Story of the Year. I remember seeing them when I went to Warped Tour back in like 2004. But I'll tell you, one of the things that I think they did really well back in the day, because I saw Vans Warped Tour at the Gorge.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't in like a stadium parking lot
Yep.
or anything like that. They split the main stage in half. So while one band played,
So like you just take 5 feet to the left
you
to
didn't
get to
even
the
really
next
have
stage?
to, but it was really convenient because it was still. You've been to the Gorge. That's not a small stage.
No, I don't like the Gorge.
I know you don't like the
don't
Gorge,
like
but I'm making a point about the size of the
But
stage.
gotcha.
Don't be a bitch.
Yeah,
okay?
it's a pretty small stage. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it was. When I went, it wasn't a big stage.
Well, maybe it's because Tool had a bunch of excessive crap.
Maybe.
Up on that stage. But when I went, and I saw Warped Tour, there was plenty of room for one band to set up on the left and play. And then while they were playing, the next band would be on the right side setting up, so it could just go
Okay.
back and forth.
Okay.
Which I think is a really cool way to not miss,
Yeah.
especially some of those bigger bands.
Yeah.
And I just think that makes a lot more sense.
When at Ozfest, when I went to Ozfest, they did 2 stages.
Right.
And the way that they did it was they just did, I mean, it wasn't super efficient, but they had a stage out in the parking lot area or whatever,
Yeah.
the ground or the pavement.
Yeah.
They had a stage out there, and that was the second stage. That started at 9 in the morning, and it just was band after band
Sure.
till 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m., you made your way over to the main stage,
Right.
which that's where Ozzy and Black Label
Yeah.
Society and all them, they all played.
Sure.
So, I mean, you didn't miss anybody, but also it wasn't, somebody's not setting up while the other person's playing. You know, it wasn't
Okay.
super efficient, I guess.
Yeah.
But we didn't miss anybody. So-
Right. Well, like even at Warped Tour, there was a bunch of other smaller stages. So there were other bands that you could see. There were, and I don't know if it's the same now as it used to be, but there were these opportunities for smaller bands or local bands
Oh, yeah,
to win
yeah.
contests. Like they
Yep,
used to have the
yep.
Ernie Ball stage. And I remember way back when we were in the running to, like people could vote and we were, looking at this opportunity, being able to open Taste of Chaos,
okay.
and stuff like that. So, like, I think that kind of shit's really cool, also.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I think again, like you're paying a bunch of money to go to things.
You don't
There's
got to
be a lot of opportunity,
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've seen so far. Not counting you've been going to a bunch of local community
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, just a
on,
little
like,
town
Saturdays.
concert, yeah.
Yeah, but still, there's a vibe that comes.
Oh,
with
yeah.
that, right?
Oh, yeah. Sit out in the grass, kids run around and play, drink shit ton of beer, and
Right.
eat food trucks, and
And
just chill.
Yeah, and like I would imagine that there's probably a pretty decent turnout for that because that's on like
Sometimes there is, sometimes it's not.
really
Yeah, it's weird. It's really hit and miss.
depending
I mean,
who's playing or
there's always at least a couple hundred people there, but on a bigger night, there's probably close to 500 people, maybe.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's decent, but there's a little dance floor, and I will say, I tell everybody that I take, there is a line dance to every song,
really.
and I don't know how they know it, but the older crowd, they start getting their beer in them and their alcohol, and an hour into the show, they're out there in between bands or whatever, they're playing T-Pain, and they're line dancing to it, and everybody is spot on doing the same. There's 20 people on the dance floor line dancing to this song. I don't know
So there's
how they do it.
20 people. That's going to be 40 replaced hips.
But yeah, it's a very good time, very fun.
One thing that I think is kind of funny, we joke about this, and probably too much, but like getting older and going to shows, so when we got done at Metallica, we got closer to home
Ugh.
and went to, I'll leave the place nameless,
Yep.
but we went
Good
to an
idea.
establishment to get some food that is known for being 24 hours. You sit in, get a cup of coffee or whatever. How
America's
long?
Diner, is that? Oh, whoops.
Okay. I don't think we got home until 3 o'clock
3
in the morning.
yeah.
Man, that kicked the shit out of us. It is
Yeah.
not like when we were 20.
No, it was rough the next day.
Yeah. Still several things that are on the list. So you bought tickets for something later this month.
Oh, yeah. We're going to see Whiskey Myers.
Right.
Well, I'm going to see. I don't know if you're going. I
yeah,
have
we'll
2
figure
tickets.
it out. Right.
So I'm going with somebody.
If you would like to go with Roger to Whiskey Myers.
So we're going to
Hit
go
us up.
see Whiskey Myers on July 20th, I think it is.
Okay. Yeah. Middle of the month.
Um,
We got tickets for something in September that I'm quite excited about.
we got... it's a shitty band. I've never...
Fuck you, Roger.
Kaleo.
Yes.
Right?
So you're the crazy bearded bastard across from me was messaging me about this Kaleo show coming up. I think I'd messaged you first and was like, dude, they're playing Roanoke.
Yep.
They're like 10 minutes down the road from
Yep.
you. And you were like, we probably should get tickets right away. And I think I was working or something like that.
Yeah. And I was like texting you,
Yeah.
and you're not texting back. Nick, what are you doing? Text me back. They're about to go on sale.
Yeah. And then I look at my phone and it's like, we better get these quick. What are you doing?
Yeah, because
Why haven't you
it's a
messaged me?
small venue, and I know they're like a big,
They're
pretty
doing,
big band now.
Yeah, they're doing
right?
well. And
And
I
I'm
was
surprised to see them there, and I can guarantee it's probably sold out now.
like, I honestly haven't looked.
It's a
'cause
small. I think it's like 5,500 people. Is
Really?
What this place? Yeah, it's a tiny little venue.
That's crazy. And it was like, oh, well, guess what? We're going to the show. Got tickets. Like, oh,
Surprise!
all right, cool. So we're going to Cleo in September.
That'll be fun.
We might see if we can't figure out some way to break into Floyd Fest and see
Paul Calthan.
who
He's one
you've-
of my favorites now.
Yeah, which is crazy because you've only been listening to really like a few months.
Yeah, but I don't know. I love him. He's awesome. I love his music. He's definitely my top 5 favorite band artist of all time.
Sure.
I
That's
absolutely love him.
That's saying something considering the amount of music you've listened to and how long you've been listening to it.
He's just his songs are very good. He has very good lyrics. It's just fun. And he's playing on Sunday at Floyd Fest.
And you pointed out that he doesn't play live super often.
No, he does. He just doesn't
Or he doesn't
travel
make it
far.
yeah.
He lives in Texas, and he's not like a big name. I can guarantee all of you listeners that are going to listen to this, all 20 of you, probably don't know who he is. You've never heard of him.
Well, actually, a lot of people who, like, maybe people don't realize it, but the first place
yes.
I heard about him
Yep.
was with Shabuzi.
Yeah, well, you didn't know it was him, right?
Right,
But you
right.
heard
That's
that
the-
song.
Exactly.
I told you might have heard this song, and you were like, oh, I do know that song.
Yeah, it was really good, actually. So that was very much a surprise to me. But I think you'd pointed out, and I think I looked recently, like he's got several shows in Texas and
Yes.
stuff like that. And he's going
Yeah, he
here
lives
and around,
in Texas,
but
so he does like little shows in Texas around where he lives, and then he does a lot of like biker stuff. But he doesn't do like big shows. This is probably my only opportunity I'm going to be able to see him unless I travel.
I don't
far.
know that that's actually the case.
Well, he also just got diagnosed with cancer, so that's another big
It was throat cancer too, wasn't it?
thyroid cancer.
Thyroid.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to knock anything like that. Like, it's obviously not that's a serious thing.
Yep.
But I will say, from my understanding, from things I've heard, people have known, things like that, if you're going to get cancer, thyroid cancer is the one to get
Yep.
because that's got a
Yeah.
very high success rate.
He
So-
does do updates every now and then. He said he's kicking cancer's ass right now.
Good.
So that's really
Awesome.
cool. But
Fuck cancer.
I've done this dance before. Where
We'll come back to that in a minute because
Yeah.
I've got an express point about that, or a little bit.
So yes, I would really like to go see this show. It's the tickets are. It's a 5-day festival, right? You can pay like $4,000 to go to all 5 days,
Right.
Or one day for what was it, $300,
That's,
for
I
Sunday?
think, 2 tickets and parking.
which is ridiculous.
It is.
$300.
Well, you give me just a minute. We're going to talk about that subject here in just a minute. There's several things you're touching on that I think are really important to talk about with this whole going to shows, because going to shows is a huge, huge thing. And I'm going to get into a few specifics of what I think, and obviously you chime in on what you believe. And if you've made it this far already, by all means, let us know on the socials what you think, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, why you think going to shows is important.
And if you want to sponsor us going to Floyd Fest to see Paul Calthan, feel free.
Please make Roger's dreams come true. The song that I'd heard with Shabuzi featuring Paul Calthan is Last of My Kind. It's
Yes.
a really cool song.
Yep.
Go check that out. Shabuzi, also a Virginia boy.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's got an interesting story, especially how he got the name Shabuzi.
I don't really know a whole lot about him. I know a couple of songs. I don't know his history or anything.
When I happened upon him, and I actually started like purposefully listening to him, not
I
just
know
stuff
we've-
that comes up on the Owl and whatnot, but
I know we've talked about him a little bit before. Just kind of passing over.
yeah, I think in a previous episode, just kind of discussing genres and stuff like that, and kind of the lines that are blurring, and honestly, across genres that I never would have expected.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But I think, as much as you love Paul Calthan, I love describing his music, which I know I've done in a previous episode. My most recent one is because he's got a lot of like early Memphis sound about him. Like he's very versatile. He can do the stuff that's kind of, party and funny and whatever, but he's also just straight up very talented. And he's got a very interesting voice, which is very reminiscent of some, Sun Studio artists. Well, and by that I mean, people like Johnny Cash and several other people that came out of that Memphis area. But to me, most recently it was like, I think he sounds like Elvis with Johnny Cash and Elvis's was it chili fries? That's what it was. Like, and they had like this love child, and Paul Calvin is what came out of it. So
Also known, Paul Calvin, also known as Big Velvet.
right?
That's his
So,
name.
but anyway, yeah. We got to figure out a way to get Roger to that show.
I
If you
got
have
it.
any ideas,
Yep.
let me know. If you work at Floyd Fest and you know a gate that may or may not be open with nobody looking at a certain time on Sunday.
On Sunday, I don't need to stay the night. I'll drive there and drive back the same day.
Yep. You mean I'll drive?
Probably.
Yeah. And not knocking anybody or anything like that, but the only other band that I recognize on that bill that I would really like to see would be the Black Crowes.
Yeah, they were Saturday.
Yes.
Yep.
But let me make another quick point, and then I'm going to come back to kind of the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about here today. So there are some other artists that are going on tour that I would specifically like to see. I'm sure you have some others as well. Rob Thomas is
I didn't know
releasing
that.
a new record. Yeah, he's going to be playing in D.C. His tickets, I think, are $100 and change a piece or something like that. The Who announced fairly recently that they're
Yep.
looking at their farewell tour.
Yeah,
Which
I think we just talked about that in our last episode.
We may have.
Because they fired somebody. They fired...
their drummer,
Their
and then they
yeah.
hired him back, and then they fired him again.
Yeah.
And Foo Fighters, same deal. I don't know what the deal is going on with that. I don't care. We're not here to discuss that crap. We don't get into
Nah.
that stuff. The rest of the internet can handle that. Gin Blossoms, which is one of my favorite bands from back in the day, and you've had 90s stuff playing.
Oh, isn't it like Jim Blossoms and there's two other super
Blues-
90s bands?
Blues Traveler
Yes.
and Spin Doctors.
And Spin, yes.
Yeah.
This would be a good one. I would like to do this one.
If you're willing to do the trek,
Where is it at?
there's one in Delaware, there's Pennsylvania. There's the one in Pennsylvania is at like the Pittsburgh Brewery or something like that.
You had me at brewery.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah, I know. I always have you at brewery. Atlantic City, so there's most of
Doable.
all doable.
Yeah, okay.
It's just date and time and whether or not you pay the ticket price.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is the
Yeah,
tickets.
and I'm headed there in a minute. But Jim Blossoms, that's first albums I ever got my hands on, by choice.
Yep.
And I remember years ago, back in the days of MySpace, I remember sending them a message like, "You guys got to come to Washington. I'm a huge fan."
I'm your number one fan.
Yeah, like, almost, yeah. And then it was like, then they started coming to Washington, and I never showed up. I still have not seen them to this day. I've been listening to them a
they
long
were
time.
very disappointed that you didn't show up.
Probably. But Aerosmith,
Oh, I thought they were done.
they are, but there
They need
continues
money.
to be little hints about possible shows. It's the internet. Joe Perry's done some interviews and he's open to it, and
Okay.
lots of people are open to it. He's doing his own, the Joe Perry project. He's doing his tour, which I think has Brad Whitford from Aerosmith and some other people doing some things. He's open to it. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
But I think that's going to be really important here when I talk about a couple things here shortly. So I didn't tell you about this information, but I wanted to throw some statistics at you.
All right, let's hear it.
Something to think about. So recently, I was looking at some data relative to music and particularly seeing music live. So kind of give a little bit of background data just on the state of some things. So one source pointed out that the RIAA, pointed out 100 million subscriptions for streaming.
Holy shit.
Yeah, which equals about $17.7 billion
Jeez.
in revenue. Okay, in 2022, how many songs do you think were streamed?
I probably a number I've never even heard of.
Probably. Well, close. I'll say it's not quite the level of the national debt, but 1.9 trillion songs.
Oh my gosh.
In 2022.
I
Right.
accounted for probably about 20% of that.
Yeah, probably.
And it was all Paul Calvin.
Right. No, this is 2022. So not.
Oh,
not yet.
2022,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah. Now, I'll come back to why that's important here in a minute. But in 2024, 151 million people attended 55,000 Live Nation events, up about 4% from the previous year. And of course, they anticipate that 2025 is going to be even bigger. So that's just Live Nation. That produced about $19 billion in revenue. Okay?
How many freaking ticket fees they made off
Sure.
of that?
Well,
Gosh.
speaking of ticket fees, and I don't care who gets pissed off about the comment.
No.
If they hear us,
Good.
That
Yeah.
because number one, that means we're getting some attention, and two,
You can go after yourself.
yeah, I've paid you plenty of money, so you can kiss my ass. But Ticketmaster sold 637 million tickets.
And their
last
ticket
year.
fees are what, $15 a ticket?
Depending on what you're seeing and where.
Yeah,
And what's
ridiculous.
interesting is I did a little bit of reading, and a lot of these companies are investing in venues.
Yes.
Which-
So that's
which-
actually the Kaleo, where we got the tickets are from
Yeah.
our local venue.
yeah.
We didn't do the Ticketmaster bullshit. They didn't put their tickets out through that. Whiskey Myers was Ticketmaster. But yeah, it was nice not having those ridiculous fees. you know?
Right. So, to me, all of what this shows, right, is, again, it's really obvious that people want music,
Yeah.
right? And they'll pay for it where they can. But can you imagine how much better things would be if we didn't have these crazy inflated prices, right? Now, I'll come back to a couple things in a minute because I know anybody that actually plays music might have some feelings on some of this stuff here in a minute. So I'll come back to it. But I do want to point out that there are efforts to, as I put in the notes, stomp on
Yes.
scalpers,
Yep.
even in the NFL,
Yep.
which is
The
crazy.
NFL just started it. Yeah, it's really cool.
You were telling me about some of the Seahawks,
Yeah,
right?
the Seahawks. Yeah. So if you're a season ticket holder and you don't go to, because now I think they're using biometrics or something like that,
Sure.
or e-tickets, e-tickets,
yeah.
right? It's all on your phone or whatever. So they can track when you come in and whatnot, or
Mm-hmm.
if you're selling your ticket, right? It has to be accounted for, so you have to sell it through their
platform.
their platform, right?
Which I bought tickets for the Hawks at the Jets at Meadowlands last
Okay.
year, and I will say that doing it that way makes you feel way better
Yes.
about spending the money on the tickets and not actually just getting screwed.
Yeah, exactly. But if you don't go to, I think it was like 60% or 70% of the games, if you're not physically going, you don't get your season tickets the next year. Because what people are doing is buying season tickets.
And then they're
just
selling
to
half of them
mark
off to
them
pay
up.
for Christmas.
Exactly. So they're stopping that. And that's really cool that they do that.
Yeah, I agree entirely.
Because it's
There's-
ridiculous. I mean, a Seahawks game now is 100 freaking something dollars, and you're sitting in the very, very back row behind a column.
That's
Right?
maybe for $150.
Yeah.
When they started releasing the schedule and I started looking at tickets for Washington or Baltimore, and they're teams that have been doing well.
Yeah.
You just kind of look at the ticket prices and laugh and go, okay, never mind.
Yep.
But getting back to music, I just like to see that this is happening in a lot of different areas because I think it all makes the same point. There's legislation that was kind of publicized with Kid Rock and President Donald Trump about trying to institute specific legislation to combat scalpers,
Yeah.
which I think is huge.
Yep.
Some artists, and you sent me this, I think, take this shit into their own hands, like the All American Rejects.
Oh, this was super cool.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
probably remember a little bit more about it than I do, but I think they were taking like requests or something like that.
They were just, people were saying, hey, come play our house.
yeah, and
And they would show up.
yeah, and
Like just them. It was like, hey, okay, we're on our way.
yeah,
And
and
just it's like my house. They would come to my backyard and play in my backyard.
I've played your backyard.
That's super cool. You have, yeah.
So
You're just a reject, though, not an all-American reject.
that hurts. I'm just kidding. But no, I think that's super cool.
It's
I
very
think
cool. And
that,
they've done, it's not like they did one or two. Like, they're doing this.
Well-
They're posting on their social medias. Let us know where you want us to go next. I think they've done, like,
a
a
bunch
good
of shows.
20 at least shows, which
Well,
is
I
super
remember
cool.
years ago, and I think this was back before my daughter was born. Foo Fighters did something kind of like this, but I think it was fewer shows and maybe more publicized or something like that.
Okay.
But they were playing similar kind of situation. I think it's really cool because one, it's straight up about the music and it's giving people these unique experiences. And kind of my bigger point that I want to make is why going to shows is so important, and it offers these crazy life experiences that you know, you've been fortunate to have, I've been fortunate to have. You know, I remember, you know, taking my wife to see Bon Jovi, and, you know, as luck would have it, you know, because we both started talking because I was wearing a Slippery When Wet t-shirt, right? She's like, you like Bon Jovi? I'm like, come on, baby.
Come on, baby.
My parents are in the video for Lay Your Hands on Me. I've been listening to Bon Jovi forever. Of course I listen to Bon Jovi.
Oh, boy.
But, you know, like, when they opened with her favorite song, Blood on Blood.
Okay.
And just watching her, like,
Yeah.
cry out of being overwhelmed, and is like this band that she listened to for so long. And the seats were not great. It was in the Key Arena, and we damn near could touch the ceiling.
But you were there.
Right.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now, on that point, I love Bon Jovi. Love Bon Jovi forever. Won't say I love every record the same, which is nature of the beast.
Yep.
Right. But my wife and I often joke about how Bon Jovi writes songs for the working man.
Okay.
The working man cannot afford his fucking tickets. Straight up. Right? So, John, if you ever hear this, that's my beef. Okay? Now.
Figure it out, John.
Yeah. Now, so my big thing here is that, you know, high ticket prices deny people important and valuable experiences, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember a previous episode you were telling me about a buddy of yours that you went to Ozfest with, and something about him like hitting you really hard or something like that, and then run into the pit. Like, just, you know, like, not that that's a great example, but it's funny because you still remember it, right?
Yeah.
And it was a really good time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my wife and I's first date was going to see Tesla, and I remember like holding her from behind, and then when these two, I could see one guy about to fight another dude and like grabbing her out of the way, you know.
My hero.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, you want to go see Bon Jovi in a few years? You know, I got to meet Frank Hannon, the guitar player from Tesla, which was really cool for me. You know, there's all kinds of experiences,
Oh, yeah.
right? Now, ticket prices, yes.
Hold on, back to that cool experience thing.
Right.
I think I sent it to you, which is really, really cool experience for this little girl. Her dad, I don't remember the show. It was at some download festival or a rock show, some kind of metal show.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I think it was Slipknot playing.
Yeah.
I think.
I know what you're talking about.
But okay, it was a metal show, right?
Yeah.
The dad was crowd surfing on his back, so his belly up in the air, holding on to his daughter while she was riding. Yeah, she was surfing him like a surfboard.
Yeah.
How freaking cool is that?
Yeah.
And there is a picture, like there's a ton of pictures of this girl riding her dad with, you know, her horns up and a big old smile on her face.
I showed
that is such a cool experience, and that she will remember that for the rest of her life.
And honestly, so will a lot of other people.
Yes.
Right? Because I remember,
very cool.
You know, bringing up in a previous episode, you know, it might have even been the last one. A guy who went to a bunch of shows in Washington in a wheelchair.
The wheelchair guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was dude in a wheelchair, crowd surfing.
Yep.
Right? You know, that's cool shit. I remember showing the wife that picture and be like, oh, look at her little baby Doc Martens. You know, but yeah, that's really cool stuff, you know.
Experiences, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's really cool.
And there's some other things that come with that too, right? Bands do some things that you don't get on the record.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, that's part of why you do that. And if you're a really big fan, like, I mean, have you ever listened to a new record of a band and been like, but I want more? I want
of
more
course.
now.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, and so, you know, so that's part of why you go to the show.
Yeah.
And you get to meet other people that are into that band.
Yep.
And you get to have some fun experiences. I remember my wife and I, you know, we've gone to shows, you know, I wouldn't say even off and on at this point, but we you know, we went to shows when we were really young, and going to Clio in Spokane, and, you know, some young girl like bumping into me or whatever, you know, just at my shoulder, and like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, what? It's a show, right? Like,
next time do it a little harder.
Shut up. You know, it's like, it's not a big deal, right? You're like, and I think, you know, by the way, if you go to shows, don't be a dick. You know, that's not necessary. Don't be that guy, because you deserve to get your ass drug out and beat if you're going to be a jerk when people are paying money to go like have a cool experience. And I've been at some of those shows. I've seen some of those things happen, and that's always lame. But you know, people shouldn't be discouraged to experience some of those things because of crazy ticket prices. Now, yes, road crews need to get paid. They are away from families.
Yeah.
You know, they work really hard and they don't get a lot of credit. So those people got to get paid, right? Things have to get promoted. Promoters take their cut, and sometimes they screw things up. There's actually a lot of bands that didn't come to Washington State for a while because promoters screwed them.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
So there's got to be a profit turn, but holy shit, these ticket prices are ridiculous, and
I just tried to get tickets for Tyler Childers coming a couple hours away from here, and I wanted to take the wife. $100 for the cheapest ticket. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
$100.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
for
stupid.
The cheapest ticket.
Right. And
what happened to like $20 for a ticket? $30.
Well, and then there's merch. Right?
Yeah.
And merch is typically, depending on the kind of deal that people have and things like that, merch is the way bands make money.
Yeah.
Right? Depending on their situation. Now, a band like Metallica, they've got unique circumstances. They've been around a long time. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they own their masters. So they don't have as many other people to owe money to, right? Yeah. If you want to, there's lots of interesting stuff out there if you want to get into how bands get paid or don't, things like that. There's an interesting documentary from 30 Seconds to Mars called Artifact that you can check out. All kinds of stuff. Okay, so
aside from merchandise,
oh yeah, the beer.
There's beer.
Yeah.
What the fuck? $14 for a beer? What do we spend $100 on 4 beers at Metallica?
Something like that.
4 beers and a water.
Yeah. Yeah, because you bought a couple and then I bought a couple because you feel like it's almost like if you have to have this is going to be a dramatic example, but it's like, okay, you go to a show and you have beer, right? Yeah. And your friend buys you a beer at a show. The price of that feels like you're taking a bullet for somebody. So you're like, well, shit, I got to go throw myself in front of a car for you too, man. So you buy a couple beers, I buy a couple beers. It's stupid. And I would say we're a little bit picky about our beer.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want shit, right? Especially for $14.
Right. But like when I was at Boardwalk Rock, it wasn't great beer. Yeah. And you're paying a lot for like not great beer.
Yeah.
And it's like 20 ounces of it or some shit like that. Yeah. Not great. Anyway, so there's a lot of money going into this, and I don't know if it was that way for you, but like I remember going to shows when I was younger. It's like, well, I guess I'll buy a sticker because I bought tickets and I can't afford to get a fucking t-shirt.
Well, when I went, it was give me that free demo. They were handing out demos, so our single of the song,
Or if you're fortunate to catch a pick.
Yeah. So it was always, let me get, where'd you get that, where'd you get that single from? I got to go grab one. You got to get something from the show. Or a program. They hand out the free programs. I have some Ozfest programs still. So,
couple little tips for people if you haven't gone to a lot of shows. Couple things here that, and people may go, no shit, Sherlock. But I'm going to throw this out anyway. Okay, so first show that my kids went to that they were conscious for. So Asa was in the womb for Aerosmith and Cheap Trick. Josephine was teeny tiny when we saw Brandy Carlisle at the Woodland Park Zoo. So the first show that they were like conscious and aware for was Kaleo at a festival in Idaho, in Sandpoint, Idaho. They do a big thing every summer. And it was really cool because, number one, it's a very diverse crowd, which helped express to my kids, like, look at all these people.
They're all here for one reason.
Tunes. Good tunes. Right? Because it's a festival and I don't really care if I'm stepping on toes here. I get really annoyed going to certain things and smelling weed.
Oh, everywhere. Yep.
All over the place.
Yep.
It fucking annoys me. I don't care if it chaps somebody's ass. It's ridiculous. Okay? It prohibits me to be able to take my kids to go see good tunes. Yep. It's part of it. I get it.
You're not the only person there, man.
Yeah. So we went outdoor show on this one for that reason. Yeah. But so we sat, in the stands further back. But we were right behind the booth. Okay. If you are concerned about getting the best sound, and this is a little tip my dad gave me when I was a kid, you want to be at you're going to go to a show, you want the best sound, be next to the sound booth because everything's measured from there.
Yep.
What was really cool is when the show was done, I was able to get my hands on the set list.
Oh yeah, yeah.
From that. Other thing, people throw picks and stuff like that all the time. A lot of times people don't catch them.
Oh,
Wait for people to leave and then
check the
look
ground.
on the ground, especially
Smart.
when the house lights come on.
Smart.
I've been able to acquire a few show picks that way. So
Ah.
little tidbit of advice there.
nice.
Okay. And if you're just one of those lucky fuckers that catches a drumstick or something like that, cool for you. Metallica, they were handing out cups and cups and cups
of
of
them,
picks,
yeah.
which is really cool for the people who paid the crazy snake pit price.
And they were
and-
walking, like, I saw pictures, people were walking away with cups of picks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh yeah, there was one guy had like 40 picks and a drumstick.
Jeez. But yeah, so like I think that's, there's some really, really cool stuff like that,
And
It's
a
like-
beach ball.
Oh, that
They
was
were
insane.
popping the beach balls, and then they
Yeah.
were selling them. They were
Oh,
selling them on
really?
eBay for like $150.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that was one thing I did not expect out of that show.
That was pretty cool.
I came across a couple other things that I thought were pretty interesting. So last month, Willie Nelson was playing at the Outlaw Music Fest in Arizona, and Willie Nelson was brought to tears when thousands of fans started chanting "Forever Willie"
Oh, that's really cool.
after his performance of Last Leaf. Just talking about it gives me goosebumps a little bit, right? That's really cool because
Yeah.
that's a guy who's played Lord knows how many shows,
Yeah.
right?
He started Farm Aid.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he
right?
started Farm Aid.
So I just got to think that there's not a lot of things that guy hasn't seen.
Yeah.
And to be able to, see
Oh, yeah.
Willie Nelson and like I don't know that like I feel like Willie Nelson could show up at any venue, anytime, and he's going to get respect from people.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know? So to see that someone who's been in the business that long and is very much touched by what it is people are saying, like that's pretty cool. And to be able to be there for that, just like us being, fortunate to go see Metallica
Yeah.
at Lane
Lane
Stadium, the first time they've ever had a show there,
Yeah.
and with such good production, and it's just so cool to see a band like Metallica. The Killers had a huge response from fans when they were playing at Summerfest. They did a cover of Violent Femmes, the song American Music, and people loved it. And that's the shit that you don't
Yeah,
get.
you don't get that. Yeah.
You don't get to experience that if you
From-
don't go to shows.
Yeah.
And like you're gonna find videos on YouTube.
That's not
and,
the
and that
same.
kind and it's not. And so, there's some trade off there. Like it's cool to be able to see some things now at a distance. Like this is gonna get posted after the fact probably, but like tomorrow is Ozzy Osbourne's last
Yeah.
fucking show.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't even remember how fast that sold out. It's going to be in Birmingham,
Oh, yeah.
where Black Sabbath got started. He's playing his shit. And last show ever with Black Sabbath. Nobody really knows what's going to go on because it's Ozzy and nothing's killed him yet. But, he's not in the best of health. I know he's
Yeah.
been training and working, trying to get in shape for it. So nobody knows what this is going to be like. So that's going to be a big deal. I'm not going to go into mentioning who's on that bill because if people care, they probably already know. But one thing I think is interesting is that they're doing a live stream, which you have to pay for.
Yeah.
It's like $30, but there's a ton of bands on it. It's going for like a full 24-hour day or some crazy shit like that.
It would be really cool to be there.
Oh, yeah.
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 but-
Well, it's like, do you remember when Zeppelin did like a one-off show? I think it was at the
I do
O2
not.
Arena.
I do not.
That was 20 years ago or something like
okay.
that. But Jason Bonham, played for him or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, like I remember there were people selling their houses to get enough money together to get into the drawing for tickets or whatever.
That's
It was like,
ridiculous.
yeah, and it's like I get it to a point, but
I mean,
holy shit.
jeez.
So like I can very much appreciate the experience. And like going to shows, you get the experience of, crowd participation. It's like, we'll show the clip here in a few, at the end of this episode of James Hetfield screwing with everybody. It was hilarious,
Yeah.
right? Which I love that shit because it shows the humanity of these people who
Yep.
like make more money than we'll ever see, and they love what they're doing, and they were all about like, now that you've come to a Metallica show, you are part of the Metallica family, and you can see that these people genuinely care about what they do.
yeah.
you know?
They could have just ended it.
We're
right?
here. And
here you go,
Yeah.
take it. That's
Yeah.
it. You know, but no, these guys love this song. This is their song. That's give it to them special, right?
by fucking with them.
Yeah.
Going, all right, we're out.
Yep. See you guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, and I know everybody was like, okay, they're going to play it first, they're going to play it last. They're going to play it first, they're going to play it last.
And they screwed with everybody too because when they were coming out,
Right.
they started playing Enter Sandman, and everybody went crazy. But it
wasn't them actually playing. It was just the recording.
It was just
Yeah.
the recording
Yeah, mixed
as
with
they
their
were
intro.
walking out. Nobody had instruments yet. They were just
Yeah.
walking out, you know. And then everybody realized, and they were like, "Oh, okay,
They're
this,
gonna play
this isn't
later.
it yet."
Yeah. But the whole like, okay, well, we're out of here. We're not going to play it.
Yeah. I said
We're
good
just kidding.
night.
Yep.
Everybody go home.
Yep. Thanks for coming out. Something's missing. It was awesome. It was
It
good stuff.
really cool.
But then you get everybody chanting, go Hokies and
Yeah, it was very cool.
and all that stuff. So it was a really cool experience and to be able to be a part of that. I want to ask your opinion about something because I feel like there's two sides of the fence. Now, like, how do you feel about live records?
I don't like live records.
Right.
I would rather be there. I don't. I mean, it's almost like a teasing, right?
Okay.
Like this show was so good, we recorded it, and we're selling it now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would rather be there. I don't want to listen to it.
Right.
you know?
And I will say, too, not everybody measures the same way live
Sure.
as they do
yeah,
on the record.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. But let me ask you this. What do you think when people go to a show and they say, it doesn't sound like the record?
It's not supposed to sound like the record. That's the thing. It's not supposed to. If you want it to sound like the record, listen
home.
to the record.
I know.
You know I don't like that.
It kind of irritates me, too. Because, like, you're right. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Now,
You know, what's really cool too, seeing, it doesn't sound like a lot of the people will also throw in extra stuff. Like we saw
Right.
Zach Brown and he did Free, and in the middle of Free, he started playing Into the Mystic by Van Morrison.
right, which is another song you really love.
Yeah, and did like 2 minutes of that, and then ended with Free again, finished up Free. You know, you don't get that on the record.
For those of you that don't know, Free by Zach Brown Band is Roger's wedding song,
yes.
which means that it's very important to him. Right, and that's shit that you don't get the surprise with
yeah,
unless
you
you
don't get
go
it unless
see
you're
it
there.
live.
Exactly.
Right? Like I feel like anybody who's listening this far, like they're probably like, we know we
Go
already go
to
to shows. Yeah, but if you
shows.
haven't gone to shows, if you're afraid to go to shows or whatever, just go to shows.
It's okay. We took a long break from shows, and then we went to one, and we were like, why did we stop doing this?
Yeah, for real. And there's another important point I want to make about that as well. But like, I remember the wife and I went and saw the Wallflowers at the Showbox at the Market in Seattle, and it was kind of weird. They altered some of the best known songs, that everybody knows on the radio, and it was like, wow, that's kind of different. But at the same time, like, you have to understand as well, like, when you've been playing, like, if you're on a tour, you're playing these songs, most nights, over and over and over and over again. You're going to get bored. You're going to want to mix it up. You're going to want to keep it interesting.
Oh,
And
yeah.
for a lot of people, it's you want to give people something that is not just like the record.
You don't
Because
wanna
some
be
people
a-
are going to go, I could have just stayed home for this and say,
you don't want to be a
shit ton of
robot,
money.
right?
Yeah.
You just get up there, play the song, and go home.
Especially if you've been playing that song a really long time.
Exactly.
After a while, you're going to go, I think I'm going to play One Headlight a little differently. Right? So I think, and that's part of what makes those experiences special and makes you feel like, oh, I got to see this, or they did this and mixed it with this and whatever. I remember going to see Weird Al Yankovic live, and that was a different experience than I would have ever
I
anticipated.
think he's actually on tour right now.
Probably.
I'd like to go see him.
Yeah, it's a good show. And that's the thing, too. Like, the production value, like the way Metallica put on that show
Yep.
with all of the other stuff, like,
Yeah.
it just kicks everything to a different level.
Snipers and all.
I wasn't going to get into that, but yes. But yeah, there's, just some really cool stuff. Now, another point that I want to make about going to see shows, and I'm not... You're never going to seriously hear me say YOLO or anything like that.
What do you say that every morning?
Shut up. Go see bands when you have the chance, because
You never know.
yeah, because I remember you hitting me up going, hey, do you guys want to go with us to see Tom Petty
Yep.
at Safeco? And I was like, it's cool. I'd like to, but, we either couldn't swing it at that moment or we had something else going on. It's like, we'll catch him on the next run. But then there wasn't a next run.
There was not a next run. He
now
died, 2 months later, I think?
Something like that. Yeah,
Yep.
So I'll never get to see Tom Petty.
Nope.
And you were fortunate to get to see Tom Petty because Tom Petty is, again, another big one for you.
Oh, yeah. One of my top 3.
Yeah. So
my son was almost named Thomas after Tom Petty.
Really?
Yeah, we almost named him
I
Thomas.
did not know that.
Yep.
That's pretty crazy.
Ask Caitlin about it. She'll tell you all about it. We tell George all the time, your name almost was Thomas.
That would have been crazy. So I think that's the other thing too is like go out and see these bands while you have the chance. Like that was part of why we went and saw Metallica.
Yes, yep.
Right? Like
we even sat down. We were like, this is going to be a ridiculous amount of money.
This is going to cost, and it could have been way more money than we spent.
Yeah, it was not what I was expecting. It was not as bad as I was thinking. And another big reason for that was it was.
I also thought we were going to be a bit closer for that price.
So did I, but it wasn't bad, and a big reason for that was because it was not Ticketmaster.
Yeah, that's true.
It was
all through Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, which is good because they're actually making the money.
Yes.
And obviously they're paying for. I mean, it was a big deal when Metallica showed up. We saw them on Wednesday.
Yes.
And they showed up the Friday before. Took out the turf.
Yep.
They had 70 trucks.
Yep, 70 trucks.
It was nuts.
It was a whole thing. I think.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
They even gave Metallica their own Hokies jerseys with their names on the back of it.
Well, right, but I'm just thinking about
stuff.
how big of a deal it was just to make that show happen production wise.
Yeah. They actually, we were talking to somebody. I don't remember who it was, but he said that they had to cut the gate up.
Really?
To get the trucks in.
Oh, yeah.
The gate that wasn't big enough to fit those trucks, so they had to cut it up to get everybody in.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that was our point. Is like we've never, I think that was the conversation. It's like, okay, when have you seen Metallica?
Exactly.
Never. Neither have I. We should probably get on this.
We've learned, this is we've done this round. We've done this before.
Right.
This we'll see them next time thing, and that's not going to work.
And then you look at bands like Aerosmith, and there's I'm consistently seeing headlines of different bands who are canceling shows because of health or whatever. Or you get things like Oasis, they're playing some shows, and that's going to be whatever craziness and things like that. So it's so important if you can get out there and see some shows, whether it's going to see some stuff just in your community or local stuff because it's
support your local artists.
Totally, because they need all the help they can get, and
they're trying to live out a dream, man. Help them out.
There's a lot of people who dream of the idea of getting on a stage and singing in front of people or playing in front of people and never do it for one reason or another. So go give the support to people that are trying to do that.
And see, that's my big reason for I want to go see Paul Calvin, right? Because you don't know.
Right.
You don't know if I'll ever have another, whether it be his health or he just doesn't make it out here again. He just stays where he is.
I wouldn't encourage people to be irrational, though.
No, don't go crazy and sell your house to get in a drawing to maybe.
Right.
Ticket,
But I think, there's a lot to be said for, getting out there and seeing live music because it's just so important. It offers, generally almost always positive experiences. There's always going to be exceptions, right?
Yeah.
You can talk about things like Woodstock 99 or, some negatives. Don't be a jerk when you go to shows. You see somebody doing something they shouldn't be, say something, don't be afraid to put people in their place if they truly deserve it, that kind of thing.
Just be chill, man. You're there. Yeah. Everybody's there for the same reason.
Tunes. Yeah.
Just relax, chill out.
I could go on for quite a long time about what not to do. Because again, we've seen lots of shit at shows, and that's no bueno. So go out there, be positive. Remember, other people are there to enjoy the tunes too.
And people are bringing their families to get their kids into music. Don't ruin it for the kids, man. That's how music keeps going. A little kid goes to the show, Mom, Dad, I want to do that. I want to be that person up on the stage playing the music.
Sure.
But then you get the douchebag that's going to ruin it for that kid.
Right.
So don't be that person.
Yeah. If you want to, if you feel the same way and you've never heard the song, there's a really good song called "Meathead" by Story of the Year. Go check that out. That does a good job of kind of summarizing some of that kind of stuff. But all in all, and the other thing too, there's some venues that I would love to go see shows at, like
Red Rocks.
Yes, I've never made it to Red Rocks, and I've seen
cool.
Kaleo's played there a bunch. I'd love to see them there. But that's one place I'd love to go see. I don't know about like Wembley or something like that. That's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that I need to be hanging out with 80,000 people or 90,000.
Well, pretty sure we were hanging out in Metallica with about 80,000. I mean, all those people in the
70.
parking lot were not getting to the shows.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tailgating, a lot of people out there.
Yeah. But, just remember that it's an important, it's a valuable experience, and you're almost always going to have really good stuff coming from it, and you get to see some surprises and things like that.
And who knows, you might even find a new band that might be your new next favorite band.
Totally.
They always have openers and local bands usually, and
openers have a tough go out of it, man. Like they know they're the opener, and they know they're playing for people who are not there to see them a lot of the time. Make sure to give those guys love. Or
a lot of the
whatever.
times you show up early or whatever to go see the opener, and there's like nobody in the crowd.
Yeah,
it's I remember seeing ZZ Top and Brooks and Dunn and Rodney Atkins opened up for him, who back then when I saw them he was a nobody, and I'm not even joking, is at White River, and there was maybe 100 people in the audience to watch him, and now he's a big name.
Sure.
So, and I mean you lose out. That's your fault.
Well,
man.
and that's
Go
the other
see
thing
the
too.
Openers,
That's kind of the funny thing too is you have that chance to be that guy who's like, I remember when seeing
Yeah.
them before they got huge. And
I saw Stone Sour at Phoenix Underground.
Right.
Well, there was,
A teeny
there was
tiny-
like 200 people in there.
Right.
That was really cool.
and that club probably doesn't exist
I
anymore.
don't think so,
Well,
yeah.
I know it doesn't exist in the format that it did, but I know it's been 1,000 different clubs. So just remember, like, even if it's not your favorite or whatever, give those people some love. It's not easy what they're doing. So that's kind of I don't know my thoughts and some stuff with going to live music. And obviously, again, when you just look at the numbers, like, people want the music.
Yes.
And I hope that there are continuous efforts, and by all means, kind of get behind that whole thing of trying to limit the scalper bullshit that's going on for so long.
Don't be a scalper. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, for real. Everybody's got to make some money, but don't be a douche. So I think that's all I've got on this, Roger. Unless there's anything else that you want to chime in on. Let me ask you real quick, because I haven't yet. What have you been listening to recently?
Paul Calvin.
Oh wow, there's a surprise.
That's about it. The wife is getting crazy of him. She likes him now because I've forced it on her.
All right. Well, and I've
you.
I've listened to some songs. He's got some stuff that I enjoy, and I've passed it along to a couple other people. And so have you
check him out? He's great.
Yeah, we'll throw a couple links in.
He's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
he's very versatile.
Being as that I've name dropped this band a bunch already, I do have to point out Khalil's most recent release that came out last month, Mixed Emotions. It is the weirdest release I have ever encountered. I've never experienced a band that released half of its record before the rest of the record. Yeah. But I will name drop a couple tracks. They already had, like I said, half of the record was already released before the rest of the album came out. But USA Today, Rock and Roller, Backdoor, Lonely Cowboy, those were all released beforehand. Bloodline's not a bad song. And I told you before, I beat the shit out of Lonely Cowboy when that came out. But they have another song, the last song of the album, which I can't pronounce because it's the second song they've done in their native Icelandic tongue, so I'm not even going to try. Also a cool song, though. But The Good Die Young, JJ gets into his falsetto voice there a little bit, really good. The song Legacy, I particularly liked. It's more on the mellow side, but really, really good. Really good. I've beat the hell out of that song. So they've got a new record. I've been listening to some other stuff too, though. I honestly I really enjoyed that record, but again, I've already had half of it before it got out. So I've come across a couple other things. Brian Elijah Smith, you showed me before, and I've listened to a little bit, but Oliver Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
Another local boy.
Yep. From Virginia.
Yep.
Virginia.
Yep. Song or two from Shaky Graves. Recently threw in a couple Dio songs.
I actually just found out. I was watching a Paul Calvin music video. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
And in the music video, I was like, "Hey, this guy looks familiar. Who's this guy?" And I ended up looking up, and it was actually Shaky Graves.
Oh, really?
He got his start because he got inspired by Paul Calvin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Shaky Graves?
Shaky Graves. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. I didn't know that either.
That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty
I
cool.
did not know that. So yeah, a few different things out there. You showed me Uncle Lucius.
Yes.
Keep
he's
the Wolves
he's
Away?
a really good one. He has a couple. He has a handful of good songs. Very good songs.
Yeah.
Very soulful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, he falls really into that whole storytelling
Yes.
thing. And I would
Very
agree.
good.
He
Yep.
does a really good job
Yes.
of telling stories through like the. Pardon me. Keep the Wolves Away is really really
very
cool
good
song. Yeah, so a bunch of different stuff. A little while ago, started dipping back into some Haste the Day. Had a funny little encounter with my daughter.
Oh yeah.
I told you, wife was cutting my hair, and daughter comes in and is like, "Oh, what is this? It sounds gross." And I was like, "Hold on there, little chica. Let's talk about judging music. Like, you don't know much about this band. You need to back it up a little bit." So we had a little discussion about that. Doesn't have to like the music. I like, that's totally cool. I'm not going to be that guy. But don't judge music before you understand what's going on with it. So, all that aside, once again, we are the Out of Focus guys. If you've given us a listen, we appreciate it. Very happy to see people all over the world are giving us a
it's
listen.
very cool.
Again, saw some stuff in Brazil and Turkey, and I geeked out when I saw that we had a listen in Eskenderon. So if you're giving us a listen again, that's pretty sick.
Tell Indiana Jones we said what's up.
Yep. India, again, Australia, our friends in Germany. Hit us up. I'm kind of curious. We've seen some consistent
who are
listens.
you?
Yeah. So let us know. What you like, what you don't like. And remember, at the end of the day, it's just all about adding music to your soundtrack. Okay. We will be coming at you guys soon with a few other things. So stay posted. And that's it for now. So this is Nick.
And Roger.
And we are the Out of Focus guys. We will see you soon.
See ya.